Hey, John Cristani here. I've owned Bitcoin since 2012. I bought in back in when it was $20. And I'm going to talk about how you can make, and I'm going to go over the specific math and the step-by-steps as well, of how you can make $300 a day mining crypto. So I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars with cryptocurrency. Unfortunately, I've also lost almost all of it through hacks and various things. Mount Go, Silk Road 2, black market, White House market, all these things, right? I've lost a lot of crypto just through hacks. Unfortunately, you guys are scoundrels. I don't know if any of y'all were hacking me, but let's go over how to make $300 a day mining crypto. Now, the basic way this works is you mine what's called a block of crypto, and a block is 6.25 Bitcoin. Now, different cryptocurrencies work a little bit differently, and I'm going to go into that a bit later. But to mine a block of crypto, you make about 200, let's just call it $250,000 when you mine a block of crypto. Now, unfortunately, the reality is if you're thinking, oh, can I just use my phone, John, or my computer to mine crypto? Yeah, sure you could, But the thing is, it could take decades, right? Of course, you could like roll the dice and get super lucky and just like, yeah, just from your phone mining. But the reality is it'll likely take decades, and if you read any other experts online about this, they don't recommend that. And what folks will recommend is that you actually get what's called an ASIC miner.
I recently bought two ASIC S19 Pro miners to start mining Bitcoin, and instead of mining somewhere like my apartment with high electricity costs, I drove the machines out to a multi-million-dollar hosting facility in rural Iowa. With electricity costs of 6.5 cents a kilowatt, a nearly 60% decrease for my apartment, I'm set to make a fortune. So far in electricity costs, I've spent nearly $400, and according to this report, I've mined 0.025 Bitcoin, or about $700. And as Bitcoin's price is set to reach over $250,000 by 2025, I'm set to make a fortune.
Check this thing out. It mines Bitcoin. And listen, it's not that loud. It earns passive income. This dude's my little robotic employee, mining the original cryptocurrency. But if it mines Bitcoin and it's profitable, it must be super expensive, right? So here's the cool part. The cheapest model is actually only $500. And don't get me wrong, I know that's still a lot of money. Not only does this thing mine Bitcoin, earning passive income 24/7, yeah, that gets me a little hyped, but it also runs a full node. So it decentralizes and just basically powers up the Bitcoin network. And here's the craziest part of all. It's really easy to use. It has a GUI, which means you click buttons and set it up.
Now, they recommend you get an ASIC miner, which can cost, $3,000 to, $4,000. An ASIC miner is purely purpose-built to mine cryptocurrencies. It's got a lot of processing power to do this these sort of algorithms or whatever, computations and whatnot which is the actual mining of the cryptocurrencies themselves. Now, in order to mine a Bitcoin with a single ASIC miner, it'll take you almost a decade still. The actual math I did was 3,429 days to mine, even with a $4,000 piece of equipment, to mine a single Bitcoin. That's a lot of time, man. And of course, the price can change or things can fluctuate. Is the world even going to be around in 10 years? Who knows? Now, other experts will recommend that you start up with about 5 mining rigs, or you put in an investment of about $20,000. So if you're serious about getting into cryptocurrency mining, I would come into it with a perspective that you should be spending about $20,000, $25,000 into equipment, mining equipment primarily, and maybe a little bit of software to help you do this, okay? Now, in order to get started and make $300 a day, I would recommend you get the Bitmain Antminer S19 XP, which costs $3,500, and you get 4 of those. Now, with 4 of these, roughly, again, it's all like randomized, but you will be able to mine a single Bitcoin in 2.5 years, 800 some days, and you will make a profit of something like $230,000 after the cost of the mining equipment. There's some electricity costs, etc. That'll leave you with a $300 a day profit. But that's how you make $300 a day with Bitcoin mining. But let's go a bit deeper into that. And that's the reality. I'm sure there are folks who will say like, oh, you could do it from your phone or your computer or whatever, but you know, like who listens to those people? Let's go through a step-by-step of how, if you want to get started, just in general, of cryptocurrency mining, of what that might look like. And I'll do it right here. Now, the first step is actually figuring out what cryptocurrency to mine, you know? And there's a lot of cryptocurrencies to mine. Some are more saturated with miners than others. Some are more difficult to mine than others. So you want to go for things that are less saturated. And one of the currencies that I actually did a foray into mining was Monero. I think it's XMR. And Monero is one of the only currencies that's actually used. All of these things, I believe, they're sort of like some sort of like confidence Ponzi type schemes. You know, people are saying they're safe, but you know, they're gamed and they're not anonymous. And there's really, the way I see it, I mean, Bitcoin, the government knows everyone who owns a Bitcoin. Monero is a private currency, but it's actually used for transactions on the dark web. People actually use it for anonymous transaction. I don't see other currencies being used for actually anonymous transactions. Now, why might you want to have, you know, anonymous transactions? Well, maybe you're doing something that goes against the law or in your country. Whatever. We won't go into like morals and ethics here, but the point is that I think the privacy-focused cryptocurrencies that actually have that are real utility that people are using them for, not just like, you know, words. People are saying, oh, this has utility. Where it's actually being used, I think those are the more valuable. And I made a few $100s just using my computer mining a cryptocurrency. But you figure out what cryptocurrency you want to mine, and that it will involve a lot of research because the market changes so much, you know, month to month, week to week. You know, it's absolutely insane. So figure out which currency you want to mine first. Now, the second step is you want to get your equipment, okay? If you're serious about this, you're coming in with at least a few $1,000s to get a miner, preferably something closer to $20,000 to actually start mining. And you're setting up your equipment, you're setting up the software to actually start mining. And there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of tutorials, there's a lot of stuff around that, but I'm going over the big basics here to help you get started. Now, the third step is you set up your wallet, okay? Now, a lot of you have wallets on stuff like Coinbase, or you had wallets on FTX, or all these sorts of things. But what I actually recommend is you get a hardware, like a hard wallet, like a Ledger or a Trezor or something like that. Something, now I will say I use Ledger. I have multiple Ledgers for different Bitcoin wallets for different purposes. But what I don't like about Ledger is they always are forcing all these software updates, and I really just don't like software updates in general. I think if you build software, it should not need to be updated constantly, and I really don't like that because reality, I'm only transacting in crypto, on an uncommon basis. So every time I go into my ledger, I have to update, and I think it's ridiculous. I bought a Trezor. I haven't set it up yet, but I would recommend what's called a cold storage wallet. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of marketers out there that will say cold storage, but it's not cold storage, or they'll say, it's safe and secure and private. It's not, and as we've seen by the amount of money and crypto that's been hacked just from me alone, but a lot of other people have lost hundreds of millions or billions of dollars with crypto, devaluation or crackings or stuff like that. It's crazy. Now, the next step is you have to configure you have to set up all your equipment. So once you got your equipment, you got your wallet, you have to link these guys together. And you got to make sure that your equipment is mining and the money is being deposited into your wallet. That's the exciting part, right? I was blown away by how easy it was to actually make money mining cryptocurrencies. I make a lot of money with my internet businesses. I make over $500,000 a month with my internet businesses. So mining wasn't like my focus, but I was just doing it to play around and test out. But I was seriously surprised by being able to make a few $100s knowing nothing about what I was doing. And I'd imagine if it's something you're interested in and go deeper into, it can be really, it can be a big money maker. And after you configure everything, then you just go. I will say this, cryptocurrency is, I'm a mixed bag on it. I think a lot of the cryptocurrencies are sort of Ponzi schemes. They're not used, Bitcoin maybe hold of transaction, but it's so manipulated, such a manipulated market. But I do see, the US, the American empire will collapse. Primarily, it will be a currency collapse within 5 to 10 years. Now, if you know, you know. Most people have no freaking clue, and you'll think I'm crazy, but it will collapse. It'll move in a couple different sections, probably like East, Central, West, or something like that, in the next 5 to 10 years. And we are we are a trade empire. We are an empire of the seas. Looking into cryptocurrency and diversifying, I'd say it's something that should be on your radar for sure, because we're already seeing trade collapsing. I don't know if y'all have seen what's happened with Yemen and the Red Sea and all these, the shipping channels are being torn apart. The Panama Canal is like broken. So most people are going around, South America now. So and China, we might, there's a shadow war going on between the US and China. So international trade is slowly, the seams are kind of coming apart. And as those seams come apart, the seams of the American empire, which trade is the backbone of the American empire, and we are an empire, it's very clear, we are the puppeteer of many countries besides our own. It's very clear. So I would be very worried if you have all of your money in the US dollar and just US stocks. Although I'm extremely bullish on California real estate because of the mixture of, Chinese, Russian, Middle Eastern money, specifically in California. But that being said, hopefully you learned something from this. Let me know in the comments, are you going to start, Bitcoin mining business, or maybe you'll look a little bit deeper into it, or, maybe it's not for you. I'd love to hear your reasoning why or why not. In any event, and if anything I said was completely off, I'd love for you to add information or correct me where I was wrong in the comments. I'm trying to create a community of space colonizing cyborgs on this channel because the goal is to get rich, and the easiest way to get rich is with an internet business. And then, we should go up to space or just have a lot of kids or whatever. But if you're looking for more information on how to start an internet business and make money in affiliate marketing like I have, you can get my book, which is free. There's a link in the description. Or you could join my mentorship program. There's a whole application process. We reject most people that go through, but if you want to, if you're motivated, you can go down there. There's more information. Great talking to you. Subscribe to my channel if you're looking for ways you can make money on the internet. And I'll see you in the next video. See ya.